and welcome to the RealRam fam. On my channel, I intend to provide you with a safe platform to discuss the intersections of your entire being, to be able to be comfortable in your own skin, in mission or position. There is no one like you, and we all have a purpose and message. I, for one, am a black woman, mother of four, a military veteran, and a wife, and a social worker, just to name a few. From my channel, I hope that you learn more about military families and social workers. Three of the social work values are my aim in each video: importance of human relationships, dignity and worth of the person, and social justice. No matter what you initially think when you hear social worker, there is more to the profession. Trust me. Stay locked in by subscribing to the channel, and be sure that you hit that notifications bell so you don't miss any new uploads. Without further ado, on to today's episode. What's going on out there, RealRam fam?
Hello, hello.
I want to say to everybody that it's applicable to, I want to say Happy Pride Month. In addition, we want to say Happy Juneteenth, and we also want to say Happy Father's Day. So today I got some guests with me, and we're going to talk about some stuff in the LGBT community and celebration of Pride Month. Before we get started, though, I'm going to have everyone introduce themselves. And when you introduce yourself, please let me know what is your birth order, and if you feel like you fit that particular stereotype of that child. So I am my mother's only child, and I know that sometimes I could be selfish, I could be responsible, all that kind of stuff that they say about only children. But then I am my father's second. I can't really say nothing about a peacemaker or anything like that because we didn't grow up together. So it was more like I was his baby. So I can't really speak too much on that, but I am my mother's only child, and I definitely fit the stereotype of that. So, Reverend Darryl.
Hey, everybody. I'm Darryl. I'm in the District of Columbia. Glad to be here again with you. My sister Tawana, in her work that she does. This is a great opportunity to be with together. I love my other friends with me. I am my mother's only child and my father's only child and my grandmother's youngest child because that's the way I grew up. So, and I probably I fit more than anything else the oldest child kind of expectations, and my uncles would say that I would fit the youngest child because I got away with stuff they didn't get away with, but I wasn't doing stuff they were doing. So that's a whole other story. The only child thing, yeah, not so much necessarily because I didn't actually, even though I grew up as an only child with her, I was not the only child in the house. So I didn't really get that part.
All right, Strawberry.
Hey everyone, Derek Strawberry Cox here from DC. I am not an only child on my mother or my father's side. I'm the firstborn from both of them. I pretty much do fit the profile of my birthday. I am stubborn. I'm very stubborn, actually. I'm very much stuck in my ways. I tend to do like to take lead, so and if you haven't figured out, I'm definitely a Taurus. So I was born May 7th, so yeah, I fit the profile.
Miss Felicia.
I'm Felicia. I'm currently in Oklahoma. I am one of five. I have a twin sister, and I am my mother's first. I don't know my father, but as the oldest, I was definitely the protector of all of them. So I fit that role perfectly. And short-tempered I can be, but I'm very proficient in everything that I do. So, I'm more of a take lead type person to get things done. And that's about it.
All right, and Miss Aurora.
Yeah, I am definitely the oldest on both sides of my family, even including my stepfather and my for my stepbrother. I am the oldest of six. Trying to do the math in my head to break this down. My biological father had three kids, me and my two siblings. My mom had me and one sibling, and then my stepfather had one of my sisters and my stepbrother. So, yeah.
So I think the easiest place for us to start would be this training that I had from Mr. Moch. And there's some terms that I wrote down that, I wanted to make sure that I did not forget. Just for anyone out there who's watching, who's not familiar with these terms. If you know them, if you can explain what they are, not you, Darryl. Two-spirited. What is two-spirited? Do either of you know what that is?
I believe that's
Tony, would you like to take that away?
Responding back to chat. Sure. I'm hoping I'm not wrong. But from my memory and understanding, two-spirited is something Indian tribes primarily did, and it's ultimately another name for someone who is trans, but in the sense of, to me, I took it as in the sense of in the more non-binary space, where you possess the emotional and mental makeup of both genders.
Well, I wrote down transgender. So you just mentioned it. So Felicia, what is transgender?
Shoot, I guess someone that wants to be in the opposite sex feel like they are, they're in the wrong skin. Like a boy wants to be a girl wants to be a boy.
Okay. So I wrote down larger umbrella term that captures everything from cross-dressing to sex and gender reassignment. So I do with cross-dressing.
I was just about to.
Yeah, I was gonna address it. Yeah, go ahead.
With cross-dressing, can you explain to us? Explain to us what's the difference between someone who's cross-dressing and someone who feels like they should be a female. Is there a difference?
Well, I'll say for me, cross-dressing for me, the difference between someone actually cross-dressing. See, I just look at clothes as just basically clothes. Some days I'll dress as a female, other days I'll dress as a male, and then other days I'll just put a mix, like I'll wear a girl top and a boy bottom, or a boy top and a female bottom. So clothes are just clothes to me, but most people will call that cross-dressing. I necessarily don't put a name to it, but if you look at it, I guess it would be considered cross-dressing. But then when you step into the line of drag queens, men that dress up as women, but they perform and they get paid to perform. And then when you get into the line of actually transgender, from a man who actually wants to be a woman that actually dress in female clothes, then that's just a step of, as you were saying, transitioning into that other sex. Whereas, I feel like a woman, I am a woman, I'm going to dress like a woman, my appearance will be a woman. And when I have sex, I'm going to thrive in that woman aspect until I actually have that surgery to get them women parts. So it's like it's a stepping stone, like just different steps down the line between, but I'm not, ever going nowhere. I just love being unique with my fashion. So
I think it depends on the idea of that. It depends. Each person defines that for themselves in general about what does that mean. So a person can say, I feel comfortable, and they may cross-dress every time they're not in a public setting. They cross-dress at home. They cross-dress on the weekends. They don't do it at work because they don't feel it's okay to do it at work. But they do it everywhere else because they're comfortable that way and they want to. And they might or might not say that they are they identify it as a different gender than the gender that they were assigned at birth. They might or might not say that. It's not a requirement, but it fits in the umbrella of sort of the idea of transgenderism. It sort of fits in that umbrella along with non-binary and other things as well. I know that some of these words that we use are very different in the Black community than they were in the white community. Primarily because I was just talking to my good friend and my play mom, Lynn Fox, the other day, and we were noting that, 10, 15, 20 years ago, Black female impersonators and Black entertainers, male and female entertainers, drag queens, if you will, but they were living their lives, many of them as women, and they would qualify in the term transgender, but they didn't use that term. That was a term that was created primarily from white culture, and that wasn't a term they identified with. It's become common now, so they have accepted it, but they don't always use that term for themselves either. So some Black folks just don't use the same terms that are used in other ways, and they don't mean the same thing to them for those reasons.
Yeah.
So
you muted, Tom, Aurora.
I hit it twice in it. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank God. I think that it's I think it's a gray area, and I think it needs to be readdressed and properly redefined, because growing up, I understood as cross-dressers were particularly cisgendered men whom enjoyed dressing as women or wearing women's garments for like sexual pleasures.
You dropped that and then you left.
We can't hear you.
We can't hear you, Aurora. Unmute again. Do it again.
Try to unmute yourself and mute again.
She's not even showing as mute. Okay, now she is.
Yeah, your camera went out.
I'm gonna remove you and then come back.
Yeah.
Did that fix it?
Say something, Aurora.
Well, if she can't hear us, look, if she can't hear us, we can't hear her.
Can you hear us?
Why her face like that?
No, I can't.
Yeah, I'm gonna remove her again, and then let's see what happens.
Look, she just need to remove herself and then just log back in.
Yeah. Well, there is an option to click from studio. That I guess that'll take her all the way out.
She said she's gonna leave and come back. Yes,
okay.
Do that.
Okay. So she was on a gym, but she used the word cisgender. For those who don't know what that is, can you explain what cisgender is?
Go ahead, Strawberry.
I'm about to say, who we throwing this to? Well, now in today's society, we have cisgender as, I guess, a feminine man, that portrays the life or the actions of a female, but don't plan on becoming a transgender. He's just a very feminine man. So the way I see when they say cisgender, when they say that I'm a cisgender man, it's like, oh, because, you're very feminine and you don't plan on becoming a woman. I'm like, okay, I guess, but I'm just a feminine man. I'm not doing all of that. So, but if you want to cisgender, it is. Okay, I get it.
Actually, cisgender is a little more complicated. It's a scientific term, and it basically means that a person is living in the gender that they were assigned at birth. So a cisgender person is a person who if I would be a cisgendered male because I was born male and I lived my life as a male. If I was born male and I decided that my makeup was incorrect and I needed to correct it and become a different gender, then I would become transgender. So cisgender and transgender are the corollaries with each other. So you're either cisgender or you're transgender. And that's how those two things work. And then there is, as Strawberry was saying, there's a whole maybe umbrella of things that might fit in that concept. So are you a very feminine man? Yeah, you're a feminine man, but you're still cisgendered, or are you trans? Like you have to people figure out where they fit in, and that's how those terms get lumped together. The issue really is in all these terms, one, is that there's so everyone, as society is evolving, people are deciding that I want to be who I want to be, and I don't want to be defined narrowly by your definition of it. So we get this long alphabet soup every time a new group of people or a new person identifies something else for themselves that they want to identify as. And so in my world, we do away with all of it and just let people be who they are. Because, at some point, the list will be so long that it'll take more time to say the list than it will to talk about whatever you're talking about.
I mean, I feel like we already reached that point, being honest with you.
Yeah.
Agreed.
But I understand it. I understand why somebody says those labels you have don't define me, and I want to be recognized. I want to be acknowledged and respected for who I am. So here's my term. I identify as a gay identified bisexual, which means my normal nature is bisexuality, but my preferences are gay. So I could, and I have had girlfriends, and I've been engaged to a woman or two in my lifetime. We never got married, and we didn't have children, but I preferred men. So I know that I have both attractions, but I have one set of attractions stronger than the other. But I don't run around requiring everybody to call me a gay identified bisexual. I actually started using it in order to expand the conversation. When people were wanting to be very limited in how they would talk about these terms, I was like, well, by the way, and as a, but I'm just me. I actually use the term same gender loving because that is, I think, more accurate and it's less confusing.
Yeah, I understand, and I feel that cold-heartedly. Most of the times I just tell people, I was like, look, I'm a man, I identify as a man, and I love men, okay? I ain't got time for all them labels and stuff. I respect everyone as a whole, however they choose to identify, but when we got to the point of where we are now, I honestly get the feeling that I'm confused and I'm lost my damn self, and I don't even know what I'm fighting for anymore. Because everyone wants to stand out individually and represent their self, but still be included as a unity or undefined in their own community, but still want to stand out by themselves and their own identity. And it's just like, I can't do this no more. You're making me want to quit.
I hear you. Okay.
Are you back? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I hear y'all.
All right.
That was so random. I was like, I don't know what to do.
Normally it'd be me and my bad Wi-Fi. So
I'm not even using Wi-Fi, so I don't know what's going on.
So I'm gonna pivot a little bit. Starting with the fact, Strawberry, you said that sometimes you dress like a woman and sometimes you dress like a male. So we all know who Billy Porter is. So for those who don't know Billy Porter, y'all may know he was the guy that was high in fashion, who was known to be dressing as a female. He's the star of Pose. So I'm gonna play a few clips from his interview where he opened up to let people know that he was HIV positive. I think this first clip, I didn't name them. I just wrote the times down. So let's see.
From my behavior, from my attributes, from the minute I could comprehend thought, and told I would never be blessed, and told that AIDS was God's punishment for gays, and all of
Can y'all hear that?
That we already know.
It was that Shane Porter says that silenced him all these.
Okay, so that one takes me to wanting to talk about the people in the church. The people in the church told him what he was going to be, and that caused him to remain silent. So starting with Aurora, Felicia, with your upbringing, was there any silencing, any shaming, anything about, what? How can I word it? Just was there any silencing or shaming? And first of all, I think I should back up and say in your upbringing and rearing, did you know what your sexual orientation was?
Felicia, you can go first.
I think I always knew, but I just didn't know, how to interpret it because I was the star athlete in middle school, high school, elementary, so and then college. So then, like, I already knew, and then our family is big in church. So you always saying they always say, "Oh, to sin," God. But then when I came out, you know, my family that was in the church, they was like, "Well, we don't really care. I still love you." So that was a big relief because some people don't get that. Some people get shamed from their parents and stuff like that, but mine was pretty open. So I mean, I think I was blessed on that part because not everybody's family's like that.
How old were you?
Oh, I was when I came out, I was
Yeah.
21, actually.
Okay.
21.
So they ain't had too much to say. I'm gonna shut up. Aurora.
I was 21. Yeah. I mean, I think everybody already knew. I think they were just, waiting for me to say something. But I mean, they already knew. They were just waiting for me to say something. So,
Mine is similar, but it's a little more complicated. Because pre-transition, my boy life, my childhood, I came out as bi when I was 14. My parents also were supportive. They were just kind of waiting on me, whatever, what have you. But the thing was, my family wasn't very church heavy. So, like, my father was raised to be Muslim, or my stepfather was raised to be Muslim, who turned more into the atheist role, and like now over recent years he's become more spiritual. My mom was a Christian, but she really wasn't. She was a stickler about going to church and going to particular churches, so she was always cautious. I genuinely did love the church, but because I grew up in such an accepting home, I thought that everyone would accept me and be okay with it. But as I got older, I learned that it wasn't acceptance, it was tolerance. And I just didn't see or understand the difference when I was younger. And so as time moved on, I started to attend church on my own accord. Throughout high school, I was literally church heavy. I was singing in the choir, dancing on the praise team, the whole nine. I was in church all the time. My family, none of my family members were. It was just me. And folks legitimately taught me and showed me what toleration of an individual looks like. Because while no one would vehemently go out of their way to like push me out or push me away, they would not really welcome me either. And folks were cautious about their quote unquote sons being around me. And it was hard to genuinely make friends. And luckily I had a strong group of friends that were really supportive, but it was really hard to fit in. And it was until after I left and started attending a different church, because the church kind of changed up over the years, that I started to really realize, like, wow, y'all really don't mess with us. I was about to cuss, and I don't know if we can do that, but you really don't care for us. Y'all don't really mess with us, and y'all so much hate. And there was this particular church I started to attend during my first year of college, and it was one of those preachers who like was heavy on the Sodom and Gomorrah, and like you're going straight to hell, and all of these things, and it turned me off from ever going to that church ever again. So I think it's interesting. And we have to be careful of churches that put on this fake imagery of like everyone's always welcome, when ultimately you're not welcome, you're tolerated, because we know if we were to say you can't be here, it would make us look bad to the public.
Strawberry.
So my upbringing, even though I'm from the hood, the ghetto, my family tried to, become Kingdom Hall, the Jehovah's Witnesses. and that just wasn't working out in their favor, but they tried it anyway. But they were still all about the whole, you know, being gay is an abomination, you're gonna get AIDS and die type situation scenario. And anytime that we did go to church, I always felt singled out because I felt like every time we went to church and we sat down, it's like it always became a moment where the pastor would say something about, you know, being gay and how wrong it was or whatever. And I always felt like everybody was looking at me, like all I needed was like at least one or two heads looking at me, and I'm like, they know. So not like I can hide it. So it was just like, I don't like coming to these places. But overall, for a while, for like probably a few years, even though I did love myself and I accept myself for who I was, I still questioned the fact that if I was living a right life, only because I didn't feel accepted at home and I didn't feel accepted at church. But school was okay because my friends and everyone else that was like me was there, but they wasn't nowhere else to be found than those other supposed to be safe places. And it was just like, well, maybe I am making the wrong choice, or maybe I should reevaluate some things. But it wasn't until my actual Bible study teacher sat me down and we had a one-on-one, because she caught me crying and I wanted to have a talk with her. And so she separated me from my other family members and we had a one-on-one, and she let me know, she put the Bible aside and everything. She was like, God accepts you for who you are. He already knew what you was going to be before you were born. She was like, we just preach these words, but we don't know who wrote them. And like, she just gave me like this whole ordeal spiel. And I was just like, you don't know what you did for me. Because I was telling her, I was like, I know I'm a loving person. Like, I love helping people. I love causing joy. So it was like, how am I going to go to hell for loving the same sex? I said, just for that one thing? I said, isn't there like a bottom line? Like, it's like levels to this shit. But, you know, but she definitely helped me define myself and who I was and what I wanted to be. And from that day forward, like when she told me that and she broke it down, she was like, I don't have to live for nobody. The only person I have to make sure, because she said that God was made out of love. And she was like, and as long as you love yourself and others, she said, then you will be fine. And she said, if you believe that, you will be fine. And I was like, and from that day, it was just like, well, then I'll believe it. And I accepted that into my life. As I became this strong spiritual being. I don't go to church, but I definitely meditate my ass off. And I got my little blessed stones, you know.
All right, it's only Reverend now.
So I grew up. I did not grow up. My household is my grandmother. I am let's put it this way. I grew up extremely religious and spiritual. It is my nature to be that way. And so I went to church when nobody else went. I went to, at one point, at times I've gone to 2 and 3 churches in a day and served in different churches in my lifetime, where I'm serving in multiple places because it's just my nature. So growing up, my church life with my grandmother and my families on both sides, I grew up AME and Lutheran, and there was I don't remember any conversation from any preacher about sexuality. It was not a topic of conversation at our churches. It also was not a topic of conversation in my household at all. However, as I got older and I ventured out of my family churches, there were topics of it in other places. And so I wasn't immune to society's views on these things and the questions that I still might have, even though at my foundational level, it wasn't there. It wasn't ingrained. It was just what I'm picking up from the rest of the world, right? But the one thing that I remember is having a conversation, praying with God and talking. And I did a lot of my stuff in the bathroom because that's where I had space and freedom. So I'd be in there and I'd be reading. I'd be in there for hours. What are you doing? Get out the bathroom. I'm reading, right? So I'm reading my Bible and I'm praying. And at some point I was asking God, because I was like, okay, God, take this away. Take it away. Everybody's saying it's wrong. You know, I used to get, my uncles used to hit me, and other people used to call me names, punk, sissy, faggot, things like that when I was growing up, when I was really little. I didn't have definition for those words. I didn't know what they meant, right? So I looked them up in the dictionary. I looked them up in the Bible. I looked them up in the encyclopedia. You know, that's me. I'm that one, right? And every definition I read, I'm like, well, that's not me, because I wasn't doing sex. I wasn't doing anything that would make that label make sense. So I didn't know how to put that. So until I was much, much older, I thought the things that I did do with guys even wasn't really sex, because it wasn't defined in the way that those things were for me. So I didn't have a word for it. It was just what I did. It wasn't anything, right? But I was praying once, and the Spirit was saying to me to turn to a particular section of the Bible. And in this section, it says, nothing can separate you from the love of God. And it gives you this long list of things, not principalities, not this, not that, not this, not that. And then after I read the list, then the Spirit said, not even yourself. And I was like, let me run that by me one more time. So I read through the list again. I'm like, not even yourself. If nothing can separate me from the love of God, not even anything that I do can separate me from the love of God. So that means that I can't be wrong. I can't not be lovable. I can't not be loved. I can't be excommunicated from the family of God, because nothing can separate me from God's love. So after that, I was good, for the most part. And I've since I've been an adult, I've been primarily involved. Since I've been an adult out of college, I've primarily been in affirming ministries. I don't go to churches where they are preaching hate and damnation and those kinds of foolishness. They're biblically inaccurate. So we teach classes on spirituality and sexuality, homosexuality in the Bible, all of that stuff. Those scriptures that are often used by people are inaccurately used, and they often are referring to things that are not what we're talking about in today's modern society. We can get into more of that at another time, but there's a whole, it's just, they're inaccurate, and they're they're bad translations of both, because they misunderstand what was happening in the culture and what was being said about things in the culture at that time. So primarily, just for the short version of that, most of those references about sexuality and men laying with men as they do with women, things like that, that has to do about power and control, and about people being forced to do things that they didn't want to do. So they had people that were enslaved, and if you make them do something that's outside of their nature, that would not be, that was inappropriate. That was not right? So you can't make a guy act like he's a woman to satisfy your desire, right? So it's that kind of concept. And I'm giving you the super 30-mile high bird's eye look at that. But when you drill down deeper into it, there's more that we can go into. But it's basically they're inaccurate. The interpretations are inaccurate, and God loves us as we are. And as Strawberry said, or Aurora said, God made you the way you are, and so we don't have the right to say who God loves and who God does not love. We don't have that kind of power.
You trying to take us to church?
I'm sorry.
That stuff hit like right here. Okay, so I'm gonna play this next.
I don't know.
Like I said, it's not labeled.
And shame is a silencer.
Okay, yeah, shame.
Shame is destructive. And I was silenced about it.
That goes together with what we just talked about.
So much sort of persecution by her community, by her religious community, there was already so much of it in her life that she had to deal with because of my queerness, that I just didn't want her to have to live through their "I told you so" of it all. I had made a pact with myself that I would let her die before I told her.
So with that, him wanting to protect his mom because of the so much going on in the church, right? Which kind of ties back to what we were already talking about. So in any of your experiences with knowing how you feel, or the way people observed and judged you in the church or wherever, but he's specifically talking about church, was there ever a need to protect your parent or any loved one that is so attached to the church or any, religious community? Anybody can start.
No, not for me. once I got to middle school and found out that I was a gay, bottom, all these other lingos I ain't know nothing about, and then I had to learn Pig Latin. And once I found out who I was, the other life part of me that I had to learn, no one else's feelings mattered. The only thing I was being considerate of for my mother was I was going to wait like they do in the movies. I was going to wait till I turned 18 and be like, surprise, I'm gay. Woo! But I'm grown now. So it's just like, I was going to wait till I turned 18 to tell my mother I was gay. But, you know, because of my brother and actions that we took fighting one crazy day, he snitched on me. And even though my mother kind of knew, you know, they say moms always know, but she's been in denial for forever. But she found out at 16 instead of 18. You know, 2 years younger than when I wanted, but you know, yeah. After that, it ain't matter for nobody else.
Felicia Aurora, was there a need to protect, you know, a parent that was highly attached?
Well, not my mother, because my mother's open-minded about everything. But so for just my great-great-grandma and my grandpa, because they're deep in the church, so I never wanted to like embarrass them, because you know they're church talk and you know gossip. So I didn't want them to be, you know, this. Speaking of that, I would never bring my partner to my grandpa's church. But she's always welcomed in his home, or you know, with family functions. But I would never bring her to his church just because I respect my grandpa and my members of my family that go to that church, and I know how that church is.
Yeah, same. Nothing for my immediate family or living with them. No. I think if there was any concern of something, it was more so just like being a certain type of gay that would be embarrassing to them. So like for gay men, you know, being that over the top, super effeminate gay guy, it was just like, and I was never that way to begin with, but the one that gets on everybody's nerves, and I was like, and because they existed, I had a friend who was that way, but that, I think that was like their biggest concern or fear. Surprisingly, my grandparents, or my grandmother, I should just say, because she was still around, she already dealt with my uncle being bisexual and having like questions or issues around it. Like she already dealt with it once with him. So by the time it got to me, it was not even an issue, question, or concern. Like even to now, like she's always asking about my boyfriend and how he's doing. So it's like it's normal. But I think that was like their biggest fear of me just being like all the worst stereotypes of a Black gay man that they thought about. That was their biggest concern in like embarrassing them in that way.
Yeah, no, for me, like I said, sexuality, sex, all that stuff was not a conversation in my family at all. So I didn't feel anything. But as I got older and moved away from home, I was concerned about who I would bring home and how they would fit in within the family and all that. And so there were times when I might not date somebody that was a little too far feminine. I'm not a feminine person, and so I was very clear about trying to maintain that masculine kind of motif, but I'm also not hyper masculine. I just call myself normal guy, right? I'm not over trying to be I'm not trying to prove I'm a guy, and I'm not trying to not be a guy at all. So, but I had that was all in my head. That was not for them. That was what I perceived. How the person would be comfortable and how my family might be comfortable with that person around. I recall once going to my second stepmother who had my three younger brothers, three of my younger brothers. And I remember going to her one day and saying, hey, you know, I figured and my dad and I have never had this conversation, but I went to her and told her about my sexual orientation. And I said, I figured I should tell you because my brothers are getting older and they might want to come visit me someday and for the summer or something. And I don't want them to come and I have a partner and they come back talking about, well, Darryl and brother so-and-so, you know, their other brother, their brother-in-law. and she'd be like, what? You know, and not want them to be around me. And my stepmother was like, what are you talking about? I would never keep your brothers away from you. That none of that matters to me. And so that was like so great. A similar conversation with one of my cousins, who her son is like my son. He's my godson, but I'm his dad. I'm the only dad he knows. And he calls me dad sometimes. And I told her when I lived in Memphis about it so that she would know, because he was coming around because he lived there. And she's like, child, if anybody doesn't know, it's because they don't want to know. And she blew me out the water. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, Darryl, come on now. You know, you're not flaming, you're not flamboyant, but you're not some of these other things either that would indicate something else. So, you know, when you put two and two together, you're like, people know. She's like, anybody in the family that doesn't know or says they don't know, it's because they don't want to know. So we love you. You're fine. Go on about your life. Quit what you're worrying about. You know, so I've not had to protect anybody. Not even in except maybe some friends. If we had, like, one of my best friends, we had a relationship of sorts, and it was very hush hush and very quiet, very private in the dark of a room somewhere, but never out in the public. But that was because of the churches that they went to and the way that they were, more so than what we were hearing in society, that we weren't trying to draw attention to ourselves at that age.
All right, good talk. I'm going to go to this next part. This is towards the end. Let's unpause it.
You're either with me or simply move out of the way, or I will move you out of the way. I'm looking forward to living a truly joyful life, a truly peaceful life. I'm on the road to healing myself.
And I think that pretty much sums up everything that you all were just saying. That, you know, you got to love yourself. Well, it isn't really about what other people are thinking and saying. People have misquoted and used scriptures the way that they wanted to, and all these kinds of things. So, good info. So I wrote some stuff down, but I think I'm going to save that for later. Strawberry, I'm gonna throw this out real quick. Did you see this? You was famous on IG last week.
Yeah, I've been all over IG, Snapchat, Metro Weekly. So yeah, it's been crazy.
So I'm gonna shift to the Lil Nas X video, and you all know the video that I'm talking about. So I don't really need to play it, unless y'all just want to hear the song. But so I try to work on not being so opinionated about things, right? Especially things that I'm not a member of. Originally, I hadn't seen the video. I'm just having the talks, right? So of course people are going to say whatever piece they want you to hear about the video. So I'm hearing it, you know, he's lap dancing with Satan and like all these things. So I said, okay, that don't sound right. Then my son showed me the video. I was just like, wow, it was a beautiful piece of work. Like, just straight up, it was like, it's a beautiful piece of work. The colors, everything that he did, the imagination. So I was listening to, I believe it was Clay King that I was listening to. And he put some things into perspective for me. That Lil Nas pretty much, you know, basically what you guys were saying. His thought of the video was, he's into himself, not really what other people are saying, but it's also kind of like throwing it back out at people. If you're saying that this and this is wrong and all this is wrong, and he's playing with Satan, right? Hence the lap dance. I guess now he just needs to like dance and play with God or whatever. and that he's pretty, I don't know, just that whole video, I thought, I don't know, once I heard Clay Kane's take on it, everything was just gone. And I just was like, yeah, I think he was really smart and artistic with that video. Second part, the shoes, I don't understand the shoes. I don't really have a real comment about the shoes, but I'm just throwing it out there in case y'all have a comment about the shoes, because he's still playing with the whole Satan and the biblical quote or biblical scripture that's on it. Start with either Felicia or Aurora. What are your views on the video and what he was trying to say, or what you think about it?
I actually didn't mind it. I actually liked it, to be honest with it. I didn't find any problem with it. I mean, he was just expressing himself, is what I feel. You know, I mean, I liked the video, you know, and I thought it was pretty funny, you know, that he's, you know, making like a mockery out of it, but at the same time, it's a nice little joke, you know what I'm saying? And I guess he's comfortable with himself to, you know, express himself that way, because that's how people already see him. So he was just giving people what they already was thinking.
On me. Oh, there we go. I love it. I don't have anything negative about it. I think it's hilarious because literally I have not seen one LGBTQI plus identified person have an actual issue. Everyone relates, everyone gets it, everyone understands exactly what he was trying to do and what he's trying to say. And the whole Satan shoe was just him trolling. He's the king of trolling. That video was a piece of trolling. Like, he loves to troll the internet like it's nobody's business in so many ways. And so there's a whole Satan show. I was like, oh my God, he really is about this troll life. And I'm here for it. I genuinely am. But yeah, I love it. I don't have anything negative to say. Honestly, I love. And then if you have not seen the follow-up to it, which was Sun Goes Down, which is like the juxtaposition of that song in that video to showcase him dealing with it in real time with real people and how it affected him in his earlier years, right before he got put on and before he got really big and famous. And it's really sweet, and it's like really cute pop song. It's not so inappropriate. It's like something white kids would play for themselves, honestly, if I'm being honest. Because I felt like I was just, the other Montero was just like black, gay strength all day. But yeah, it's phenomenal, and it's just sad that people got so caught up on that one section. Like, they started raising eyebrows as the video led on, but by the time they got to that section of him going down the pole and getting on Satan, it just kind of stopped there, because they didn't even talk about, well, that he just killed Satan and like what that was supposed to represent and what that was supposed to mean. They just stuck on he's dancing on Satan and he's promoting like hell to some degree or some bull. It's just people are ignorant and willfully ignorant.
Before you go, Strawberry, would you say that is willfully ignorant, as opposed to that's just really that's your foundation and that's the environment that you stay around, where it's so embedded that this is a sin, you're gonna go to hell, and you don't know how to interpret things for yourself. So would we really say that they're willfully ignorant?
Tony, that's a question for you.
I'm sorry, I thought that was asking Strawberry. My bad, I thought you were Strawberry. Okay, so to answer your question properly, the only people that I could understand it more so for is the generations before before the heavy power of internet and technology. So honestly, like Darryl's generation and even older, I could understand it being because I love you. I'm so sorry. I love you so much.
Dude, but I've had the internet since I was a child, my dear.
Yeah, but not like this.
Neither did you when you were a child.
Oh
like
no,
this.
yes we did. Oh yes we did. Yes,
okay, because y'all still had the little dial tone.
I definitely still have these things, but even older than Darryl's generation.
But I love you nonetheless.
That particular generation, I could understand that being their response and it not being willfully, but at this stage in life where there's so much access to so much so easily, it's becoming very hard to give people the path of, oh, you're not able to get to see or view. America's not exactly a third world country, so, or U.S. like our own continent, like it's not exactly a third world country. So it aside from being raised a certain way and then getting out on your own and learning, I was like, it's a lot of willful ignorance, and like you don't want to think or believe outside of anything, because even if you don't agree with it, that doesn't mean you're not open-minded to at least understanding and recognizing and validating that it exists and it's real. And because that is where a lot of the disconnect happens, is why I call it willful ignorance.
Good points.
And that's what I was going to speak on. I was like, just because you don't understand it don't mean you don't have to try to, agree with it or not agree with it. That's what I was going to speak on. But I was like, go ahead, girl. But no, overall, I did love the video. And I feel like she said, Lil Nas loves the trolls. So I feel like he already knew that everybody was going to look at this video, and he knew the negative and the positive connotation he was going to give this video. So he expected all of it. That's why he's still smiling to this day. Like I don't honestly feel like he was worried about any of it, because he looked at the comments and he even shared some of the negative comments and he laughed at it. Because if you look at the video, instead of them saying that, oh, he's satanic or he what is it, Illuminati now, and I'm just like, no, you have to literally look at the video and understand the makings of it. Because I've had a few friends who I was shocked, because they was like, well, why is he saying call me by your name instead of by my name? Because I want you to call me by my name. I was like, well, no, if you understand the visual of the video, it's like you can call me whatever you want, but I'm still gonna live in my truth and do me regardless. So you can call me faggot, you can call me abomination, you can call me any name that you want to call me, but I'm still gonna live in my truth and my authenticity and what it looks like for me. And when he did that video, I felt like he made that video for me, because every time somebody told me I was going to hell, I was like, and that's fine, because I'm gonna go there and I'm gonna take over, and I'll see you when you get there. So it was just like when he killed the devil at the end and put the crown on, I was like, that's me. I'm taking over hell. Like, no matter where I go, I'm still gonna be that bitch wherever I choose to go. So either way, it was just like the symbolism in that video alone was just so powerful and dynamic, and it was just so beautiful and just well done. Like he had all tenacities. I was just like, yes, it's like you just took all the ideas and brain waves of my creativity and made it your own. Like, I love it.
Also, really quick fun fact, if for anyone who doesn't know, the reason why the song is called "Call Me by Your Name," it's actually based off a European film actually titled of the same thing, about two gay men who could not call each other the way you would typically want to call your partner. And so they would call each other by a particular different name that only they could call. Hence why he's like, call me by your name. That it's genius, but carry on.
Love it.
Well, I will say that I absolutely, with every fiber of my being, hated it. No.
Yes, devil advocate, go ahead.
No, I didn't. Actually, this video, I know about Lil Nas. I follow him a little bit, but this video made me follow him on Twitter and actually made me respond to things out in public on it. And I actually feel very fatherly towards him. It brought out a whole nother side of protectiveness about him, because as an artist, I recognize the artistic presentation that it was. And just like Madonna's Like a Virgin, just like Prince, Don't Die Without Prince's song, The Cross, there have been other artists that have done other things that have pushed the envelope on religion and religious iconography and religious persecutions and religious perspectives that invade the common culture and sort of take over and are more damning to people. So there are people that have been pushing the envelope on these things for a long time. And he comes from a long line of royalty to do this. And so I felt like he was being artistic. Everything that everyone else has already said is true about the messages that he's sending in it. I fixated on the very end when he actually killed the devil and took his horns, right? I was like, well, how can you say he's working? He killed the devil. He went and did what Jesus did. He conquered the devil. He conquered hell and the grave, according to our system, right? Belief system. So he went and conquered the devil in modern time, right? So I just think that he is a genius, an artistic genius, and it's a marketing thing. He knew this was not the first video he put out. His career would not have made it if this was the first thing, right? But he did what he did, and then he did what he did, and then he came out when he came out. There's like somebody has a master plan that sort of said, we're going to do this along this way. He is going to have a long career unless he just doesn't want to, because his level of creative artisticness is off the chain. And I'm so proud that at 21, 22 years old, he's being that free and that creative. I can only, and at his level of maturity, because only being 20 something years old, you only have so much maturity because life experience, right? When he's twice as old as he is now, can you imagine the kind of artwork that he's going to put out that challenges society, that pushes us, that empowers young other people to live their truth and live their freedom? I cannot wait to see where he goes and who comes along behind him, because you can expect somebody's going to come along behind him and do even more than that, right? And that's what happens as we break down barriers. Religion is not intended, and no religion is intended to it should not be intended to push people into a barrel and put them in a dungeon, right? Religion is intended to be freeing, to connect us with a higher source, to give us a higher meaning or connect with our purpose in life. And every major religion that you can find is what they're about. They're about love. They're about empowerment. They're about bringing people together. They're about bringing goodness into the world. And so even if you look at Wicca and pagan ways of worship, those are all still not about demonic negative things. They're all about life and respect of life and respect of the planet and each other and people and honoring the spirit in everything, right? So I think we've got it wrong, and in many places we've got it wrong, and all these things are pushing us to find a greater truth. I think God got a good old chuckle out of the Lil Nas video. I think, well, God knew it was going to happen. So I think God was like, I need you to do this, and gave that to him. I believe that was a divinely inspired message and song in the presentation. The way it all came together, the beauty of it all, and I think that that God is saying, all right, now what? Right? Now what you gonna? Now what? Because you all want to define me. This is God talking. You want to put me in a box and tell me this is what I think. This is what I say. You're going to tell me who I can love and who I can't love. You're going to tell me what I can do and where I can't go. You're going to keep me out of your bedroom, even though you know I'm everywhere. But you want to put me inside somebody else's bedroom where you're not and judge them for whatever's going on in their rooms. So God is saying, all right, so all bets are off. Kid gloves are off now. Let's go at this. Let's see what y'all got. Because I got some warriors, and Lil Nas is leading them. He's a general in the army. I got some warriors that are going to break this stuff up. And you're not going to keep putting me in a box. You're not going to hurt my children any longer. I'm not going to allow this anymore. And so we are coming out of everywhere. And I think it's a beautiful thing. I love Lil Nas. He is my spiritual son. And I feel that way about him, and I will go to bat for him. Somebody got something to say, bring it to me. I got it for you. I'm just saying, and I'm saying that to say any of the big highfalutin preachers and ministers and imams and sheiks and clerics and whoever else, rabbis, whoever you might be, right? Bring it. We can have a real conversation because I have the background, so we can have the conversation. You may not know who I am, but I got it for you. So let's have, if we want to have a real conversation about real things, let's have those conversations so we can stop playing with God and playing with religion and playing spirituality and really empower people to live the lives that God is calling them to live, free of our judgment of them, because God is the only one that can judge. I'm going to stop there because you're going to make me go somewhere. I'm going to stop.
Because you keep wrapping everything up. And I'm like, well, I can't ask this question now because Darryl done summed it up. Well, I can't ask this one because he done summed that up too. So you had said something, but then
I'm going to shut up now.
Was you about to say something, Strawberry?
No, I'm just giving him his praise. You know, they say give him flowers while they still here. I agree with every word.
I know he like we need to just close the doors and go home. Hey, you said something though.
We could take up the offering now because you still got to put on these shows. We could.
Because that's pretty. That's pretty.
Donate to you, right? When they donate to you
with the offering.
When they donate to you, Tawana, to help you keep doing what you're doing.
Okay, so I'm gonna try this and then. Because I don't want to go too much over, especially since Darryl done closed the doors of the church. So I'm trying to open them back up. Yeah. So the fact that Lil Nas, okay. So here's a judgment. I'm gonna give you a judgment. After he comes out, sometime later, then he want to start dressing all differently. Like to me, he was just like a little young Billy Porter. So I heard everything you said, Darryl. But what would be like if it isn't God trying to send a message to the rest of us? What is Lil Nas trying to send to the rest of us? Why is he another Billy Porter? And why now?
Well, I wouldn't say he's another Billy Porter. Billy Porter is also a Broadway star. And so dressing up and wearing fabulous things is part of the Broadway lifestyle. So that's a different thing. But I would say that Lil Nas is, the reality is if you want to make it in the industry, you got to come out and be vanilla, right? You got to be acceptable to a larger majority of people to really make it in the industry. So he couldn't come out wearing pink leather, Pinky Tuscadero leather outfits, singing, doing hip hop. They would be like, who the hell? He's not the first gay hip hop artist or rapper, right? But how many of them do you know their names, right? And those that were gay or lesbian primarily, we knew they were, but how many of them are out in that way when they're in their early careers, right? So we're not at a place in our society where some people can just come and be who they are and be okay with it. And everybody is okay buying their stuff. There are some that can do that. But even Billie English, I believe this is their name. Am I getting the right name? Who's now trans, I think, or non-binary. The white actor.
I'm about to say the white actor. Okay, I was say, okay, yeah. So
yeah, right. And so a lot of people have and then the woman that played Hermione in the Harry Potter stories, right, comes out. But she was a kid, so she may have been lesbian as a kid and known it. But you say that is that, hey, I want to be an actor. I'm a lesbian and I'm 6. Like, what? That's not your calling card, right? So you got to go do your thing. So I just think it's a part of every individual person's evolution. There might be a day where if Strawberry were to become an artist right now, Strawberry would be an artist just the way he is. And that's just, you're going to take Strawberry just the way they are. And I've never, ever since I met Strawberry, 10 years ago or more, Strawberry has been this way. So Strawberry is always this way. So if Strawberry puts out an album, and you've done some videos, right? And if any of that stuff takes off and you become this artist, he's always going to be that one, right? But that's what he brought, and that's what we buy from him. So it's going to be everybody has their journey, and I don't think we can judge why or what for or why didn't they do something else. That's your story. Write your story. Do your thing.
All right, so do any of y'all have any seconds about something we already talked about before I give one last question? Because church was dismissed.
So really quickly, to Darryl's point, we don't, and this individual, due to like certain problematic things around their personal life, we don't give them as much credit as they deserve. But Todrick Hall low-key opened the door for a Lil Nas X. Todrick Hall has been doing this out and proud level of social media while also being able to pander to kids, because he has a large youth following, and he's been, even though he started getting publicly known and supported when he was a young adult. He was like 22, 23, like he was a whole ass adult, but he really opened the door for a Lil Nas X to honestly be and do what Lil Nas X is doing, because Todrick has worked with a ton of celebrities. Todrick is independent and supporting his own visuals, his own music, his tours, everyone he pays all on his own with no label, no backing, and has consistently been out and proudly singing, writing, and promoting about being in love with men and the relationships he goes through with them, as well as like what he deals with from the public and things of that nature. And Todrick does not get the flowers that he deserves. And I think that Lil Nas X is coming up and around a time with the perfect generation where they are going to be a lot more vocal in protecting and fighting for him than past generations would. Because as Darryl said, there's folks who could have tried to do this in the past and it wouldn't have worked. It would not have worked at all. Todrick is the literal, honest to God, only Black gay male exception I can think of that reached this level and plateau of being in spaces and rooms where he's best friends with Taylor Swift, of all people. He's the only one. So,
but remember, Aurora, that he also gained fame on American Idol. So
I know.
They gave him a different platform also.
His early roots, but even still, he didn't make it. And we know plenty of folks that didn't try it out and didn't make it for that show, and only a select few either became big because they made it or became big because they didn't. So the fact that he was one of them, because be honest, he's the only Black gay person that I remember that was that talented from American Idol that got some popularity. And then Adam Lambert was the white gay guy that won.
Mm-hmm.
And no shade, I don't even hear about Adam Lambert, and he a white gay. I don't hear about him, if at all. So it's just, like Darryl said, there really aren't others that are doing what Lil Nas is doing out loud and proudly with the support of a major label and the full nine. Like it is a first in its own right. We all knew who somebody was on the DL or probably gay, but we just didn't publicize about it and we didn't talk about it. And as long as their music wasn't particularly pandering to it, we all good.
Yeah.
You was about to say something, Strawberry? It looked like.
Oh no! Look, they done took everything I was gonna say. Sure. I just need everybody to keep doing what they're doing.
So, all right. So this would be the wrap up question. If there's someone out here watching, or will watch later, who would like to come out, what advice do you have for them? Also, what is the best way? So the answer is for them. And then secondly, if they happen to be, what doesn't matter what their age is, family members, what's the best way for the family members to respond to them? We'll start with Felicia down here and go around.
For everybody's coming out story, it's different for everyone. So I guess it's the circumstances and uh how they would want to do it. You know, there isn't no perfect coming out story. You know, no one can sit here and say, you know, they had the perfect coming out story, because no one really does. You know, a lot of people just live in, you know, they don't live in their truth until, you know, they get brave enough to do it. So, you know, I guess when the time is right for you, or when you feel like, you know, you ready to live your truth and you ready to be who you are, and you know, you feel, you know, you're accepting in yourself, and you know, you come to terms with who you are as a person, you know, love you first. And for the parents, you know, just treat them with love, you know. That's all they really want, for you to love them and to accept them, because you know, everybody's scared to tell their parents, you know, and their parents should be the least person they should be scared of to tell. That should be, they should be able to, you know, run to them to tell them, you know. But you just gotta, the parents, you know, gotta love them first, you know. That's your child above all else. So if they can't express themselves to you, then somebody else, you know, how you expect them to, you know, interpret that to a different family member when they know their parents wasn't as accepting. And especially with the, you know, suicide rates with teens and kids these days, you know, it's crazy. And it would suck for a parent to lose their kid that way, because they can't accept who they are and love them for, you know, who they believe they were born as.
Aurora's next.
Yeah, Felicia kind of hit the nail on the head with it. That's really true. No coming out story is different, and we cannot define what is safe nor the right way to do a coming out story, because it's different for everyone in every situation, especially for those who live in other countries where it's literally illegal and like death penalty follows. Like there's no perfect way to come out. All I can hope is that you have community, that you have someone that can help you find your way to reach that point to come out, and whether it's to be courageous or because you feel safe, I just hope that you're able to find at least someone to connect with to do that you don't feel alone.
Um, all I can basically say now is, you know, there's a time and a place for everything. You know, mostly I tell people, you know, coming out is just like another adventure that you go through with your life. Like I tell people, even when I became HIV positive, I was like, that was another coming out story for me. You know, when my father died, that was another coming out story for me, because that was a ooh, child. That was a connection that I didn't have, and it was something new to me, and then there was something new that I also lost. So it's like it's different experiences in your life. So I tell people it's a time and a place for everything, but when you yourself feel like you're ready to actually come out and share yourself with whoever you choose to. I say, even before you get it to your family or whoever that important person is, start small. Like start with your support team and then work your way up. Now, if your parents is your only support team, then I would say start with your best friend or your sister, your sibling, whoever your favorite cousin is. Start small and then work yourself up. Like build that courage within yourself as you build that authenticity that you have with yourself. So own your identity. And then once you're able to truly own yourself and love yourself for who you are as a whole, then you won't have no problem coming out. And to any other parents or guardians or anybody that you know that's just looking over anyone else, like if someone come out to you, just be open-minded to, you know, whether you accept it or not, just be open-minded to it, you know, no rejection, because like Felicia was saying, we don't need no more suicides. You know, it's enough people out here killing themselves for various crazy reasons, you know, even if they don't mean to, because of a drug overdose or, you know, being drunk for alcohol and making crazy decisions, like whatever that falls under, you know, it's all dealing with something mental, because, you know, we feel lost in some aspect in our lives. So it's just like, just try to be accepting of someone and who they are as an individual. Get away.
Yeah, I think you guys have laid the great foundation for it. I would say to somebody who's thinking about coming out, wanting to come out, feeling like they need to get, as Strawberry has said and Aurora alluded to, get your a support system around you, get a network of your own. One somebody, two somebodies, three somebodies that you can, who will unconditionally support you, that you know. The other thing I would tell people is to just begin to live your life and just be yourself. I don't have a major coming out story. I eventually told some folks in my family, but it wasn't like an event, right? I just was doing me. I went to school, I did the arts, I went to college, I did what I was doing. I dated who I dated, and I allowed people into my circle, into my experience in my life as I felt comfortable letting them into more and more intimate levels of knowing me. And so it evolved over time, but I don't think you have to hide it and try to be secret about it. I think you just live, right? And our lives are so much more than our sexual orientation or gender identity or any of those things. That's a small percentage of who you are. So do all the rest of you, right? Live that stuff. Be all that you can be in whatever ways you can be, and then allow that small portion of yourself to unfold as it is supposed to. And for people that are family members, loved ones, care ones, teachers, if someone comes to you and feels like they can share that with you, they're looking for support. The best thing you can do is to be either say, I can be fully supportive, or say, I don't understand, but I can get you to some people that can give you the kind of support you need. And you can still be there for them in that way. And as a family member or parent, if you just really can't do it, it's really against your religion, and you happen to have watched this whole thing and hear this, which would be interesting. But if that's where you are, then just understand a couple of things. One, that our children are not our children. They belong to God, and they're loaned to us by God. And so they still belong to God. So we are not to do damage to them. They don't belong to us to damage. So if you have a problem with something, your belief system, I'm not going to tell you can't believe it. I'm just going to tell you, if your child is doing something outside of the belief system you have, then try to help them navigate to a place where they can get the kind of support they need, not conversion therapy, and not forcing them to see psychiatrists and counselors. Everybody could use a little counseling, but you're not forcing that. There's nothing wrong with them, right? And whatever becomes as their life evolves, some people evolve and they spend a time doing one thing and come back and spend a time doing something else, and then down the road they do something else. Just love them as they are, the way you have always loved them before you knew that thing that you think now you know. Love them the way you love them before you knew that, and leave the rest of that to time. And the last thing to people that are coming out, sometimes your family know a lot more than you think they do, and they're not, and you're worried that they're going to disown you or put you out or not want you around because that's what society says families do. That's not always true, and most of the time your families don't do that. They may struggle with understanding, they may struggle with knowing what to do and how to deal with it, but most of the time families are not putting people out. There are families that do. It happens a lot, but that's not all, right? So and most of the times in my experience is that there's some awkwardness that people experience, but not a complete distancing. There may be some, I can't be around you right now because I don't understand, or I don't want to be around you. My uncle told me when he found out, he said, well, if I don't shake your hand the next time I see you, it's not you, it's me. I was like, how is it not me? You shake my hand, or I don't give you a hug. You shake my hand, you give me a hug. You've been doing that all my life. So now you know something new and you don't do it. It is you. And it is about me. But I promise you, it never happened. The first time that uncle saw me after this conversation, when I went home to visit LA, the first thing he did was embrace me. So people are afraid of what they don't know. They have their own society stuff that's going on in their heads. We just got to we got to love people and don't expect so much from them. Don't expect no one needs to fully love you, fully embrace you, fully whatever. That's for you to do. And so just, don't over expect and don't under expect. Just be free to be yourself and take your time. Be kind to yourself. Love yourself. Be gentle with yourself and each other. Quit asking questions that make me talk a lot.
Well, with all of that, I'm not going to do the usual closure because Darryl took us to church. I'm just going to say to everyone watching, once again, happy Pride Month. Take care of yourselves out there. Know that you are loved and you were made for a purpose. And we're going to let Taking Back September take us out. I'm going to play a little bit more of the song this time.
I can't do this anymore. Left my past all on the floor. I've been trying to keep it moving. Now we going north, going up to great, up to great. Got this joy inside of me because I can't do this anymore. Left my past all on the floor. I've been trying to keep it moving. Now we going north, going up to great, up to great. Got this joy inside of me because I got the key. We've been really moving places, going from the low. I was shining in the tunnel cause I got the glow. People really hating and it really starts to show, yeah. We gon' level up again cause that's just how we roll, yeah. Came in with the sauce, yeah. Learned out from the boss, yeah. I've been learning lessons from the struggles and the losses. Praying for communion for the races since we lost it. I done had enough of it for all the pain and cause anymore. Left my past all on the floor. I've been